Hey Nunu girl, so today's story is why the rabbit's tail is so short. Again, this comes from the book Stories My Gogo Told Me, and Gogo is the African name for granny. So just as well your granny's reading this to you. This was originally told to the author in a language called Ndebele, which comes from Zimbabwe and the northern part of South Africa, and also in Bemba, which comes from Zambia. So here's your story. Once upon a time, long time back, when the animals could talk and the hare had a long bushy tail, there was a terrible, terrible drought. Now a drought is when there's no rain and there's no water and everything dries up, and it's really terrible because there's nothing for the animals to eat or drink. The leaves shriveled up, the puddles turned to dust, and the water hole slowly dried and cracked, leaving the animals with nothing to drink. Even when they prayed to the great rain god, the air remained empty and dry, without a single cloud in the sky. King Elephant became desperate. He hadn't had a drink for 2 days, or a mud bath in a month. So he decided to call a meeting. "Cheetah," he trumpeted to his chief messenger, who was lying in the shade trying to keep cool. "Go and call all the animals. We must meet." Being the fastest animal on earth, it didn't take the cheetah very long to relay the king's message. He ran from river to rock, from grassland to grotto, from treetop to mountaintop, until by the end of the day, the animals had gathered all around the great big baobab tree. Now, a baobab tree is also known as the upside-down tree because it looks like the roots are up and the leaves are underground, which is a bit weird. When they all quieted down, the elephant began. "Subjects," he trumpeted, swaying his body importantly from side to side. That's what elephants do. "We are in grave danger. Our water holes are almost dry, and soon we will die of thirst. Either we must move to a wetter area, or we must make a plan. I've given up on all of my ideas, so if anyone has one, would he please step forward?" At first, no one said anything. Then the impala and gemsbok, shy little buck, from the bush started to whisper to each other. Speak up, thundered the elephant. "If you've got something to say, trumpet it out. "Well, Your Majesty," said the impala, his skinny front legs shaking with nerves, what about digging a well? If all of us helped, it wouldn't take long, and we could take turns to guard it day and night, and then we would have water forever." The animals couldn't believe such a big idea had come from such a small creature. "You are quite brilliant," said the king elephant. "Tomorrow, as you have suggested, we will start digging, and you will be the first to be rewarded with sweet water when the well is finished." The next day, as agreed, all the animals gathered in a sandy spot by the riverbank to dig. Every animal, that is, except the lazy hare. "Me?" Hare said, flicking his long, beautiful, fluffy tail. "Why should I want to drink from your silly well? I have juicy roots to gnaw on in my burrow and an underground spring to sip from. Thanks, but I'd rather have a snooze here in the shade." Digging a well took a whole day, but at the end of it, the animals heard a wonderful sound coming from the bottom. "Water!" Python gurgled as he slowly floated up on a bubbling pool of liquid. Excitedly, the bucket was passed to the front, and as promised, when the first bucket was drawn, the impala was given the first sip. Oh, the water was not only cold, it was sweet and pure and clean. The nicest water anyone had ever tasted. Over the next few weeks, as the earth became drier and drier, the animals congratulated themselves on their magnificent well. Only Hare wasn't happy. The spring had disappeared from its underground spot, and the roots had shriveled and dried. But whenever he tried to get to the well, some fierce creature was guarding it, and the animals all said the same thing. Sorry, Hare, but you didn't help us dig, so you can't have a drink either. Goodbye. Hare was becoming very cross. He couldn't be bothered to dig his own well. He didn't fancy pleading with the king for water, so there was only one thing to do. He decided he was going to steal it. That night he crept quietly behind the well, and with just a little hop he was in the bottom, sipping the lovely cool, sweet water. Ha ha ha! You are a clever chap, he laughed to himself as he inched his way back up. But the hare was not quite so clever as he thought. The watchful guard had spotted him leap in and immediately called the animals, and just as Hare got to the top, he was caught. Then a great roar erupted into the night. Ha 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 ha! Laughed the hyena. Hiss, 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 said the python. Snort, 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 huffed the hippo. We've caught the water thief. Thief. Even King Elephant trumpeted triumphantly before quietening the animals down for the hare's formal dressing down. Hare, you are a disgrace to the animal kingdom, he rumphed haughtily. Not only have you been lazy and failed to help us dig this well, but you have stolen water that doesn't belong to you. You should be punished. Hare's long tail started to quiver in terror. King, oh king, he said, I know I have done wrong, but whatever you do, please don't swing me by my ears and tail and throw me to the sand. That's what every hare dreads. Elephant surveyed him with a frown. If that's what a hare dreads, then that is what we must do to you, he said. He called for the sharp-toothed dog to hold the hare's long tail and the hyena to hold the rabbit's ears, and then, as the animals roared and snorted, they swung the hare high up into the air, and he thumped down onto a pale pile of yellow sand. When he lay there quite still and let the rumbling cheer, justice has been done, the animals yelled. Let us go and celebrate. But as usual, Hare had tricked his fellow creatures. No sooner had they turned their backs than he leapt up, gave a gleeful shout, and then hopped for all his life. Silly animals, he laughed as he bounced away for that. They don't even know how soft sand is. It's like a pillow for us hares. The other animals hate being tricked. But being tricked twice is really out of order. After him, trumpeted the elephant furiously as their paws pounded with creatures in pursuit. Lion was at the very front, but before he could even yell, Barrow, Hare was down one, his long tail slinking swiftly down the hole. Sadly, it didn't go quite fast enough, and the lion pounced and caught it and bit it off sharply between his teeth. Hare howled and cried, hopping up and down in agony. Ow, 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 ow! But it was too late. Beautiful Longtail was gone, lopped off by the lion. And look, if you look at it today, you'll see how stumpy it is, a constant reminder to the hare who had cheated and lost.